Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab Podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm here at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. Let me rephrase. One of the greatest cities in the world, Austin, Texas, with my friends, South for Winter. Guys, how we feeling?
Fantastic.
A little tired, but loving life, eh?
Yeah.
So these guys literally just got off the boat, right?
Yeah.
Quite literally.
That's true. We did.
It was really good. Yeah, we were just
So talk about it. Yeah.
It's called the Riverboat, and it's a new Nashville collective. You want to explain more about that one?
Yeah, so it's actually started by some Nashville artists, which is really cool, and sponsored by Bose. So they essentially rent a boat that they have acts alternate between the upper floor and the lower floor. And so it's just constant music. They only allow like 100 people onto the boat. So there's just people lining up to get on. And you spend 2 hours listening to 5 different acts. And then come back to harbor.
There was some pretty amazing talent out there today.
It was
Free
great.
drinks too, right?
Free drinks,
And
free tacos,
Yeah, man.
which were fire.
Can't go wrong
It
with
was a
free
good
tacos.
time.
So you guys got
great.
into town when then?
A couple nights ago. Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
we had a pretty big journey because Danny and I actually came straight from New Zealand to get back to America in time for South by Southwest. Alex met us in Colorado where we had our dog in our van parked up at the in-laws. And then we drove the 13 hours in one day south from Colorado Springs to Austin. So we got in about 1 a.m.
Got up at 8
Tuesday
and registered
morning.
and
Yeah.
the party started.
Went straight to our first showcase at noon. So
Down to the New Zealand showcase
Yeah.
on Red River, I think it is.
Mhm.
Okay.
13th floor.
13th floor.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
such
yeah.
a cool spot. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Mm.
And then we played our official at Saxon Pub that night as well, which was an unbelievable listening
Oh,
room.
yeah.
It was
establishment.
so
we were
much
just-
The
fun.
acoustics there, right?
Oh,
That's
it
an
was
iconic spot.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
our first time coming to South by Southwest, so you really go into every show with as low expectations as possible so that they're always surpassed. So turning up to Saxon Pub, we were like, what is this? This is incredible. Like the sound engineer was on point. It sounded
Mhm.
amazing in there and everyone was, I think it was well received. So
Yeah.
we've been invited back again tomorrow night, which will be cool.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is not always the case down here. Trust me. Just this week, we've seen some bands where there was some struggle or there was some, feedback where just pierced your ears. From,
Oh, yeah, that's
It's one of the
rough.
hardest
Bands.
jobs, you know?
No.
Like, but you imagine being a sound guy. You just say, I'm just trying to plug everything in, and then you've got like potentially 1,000 people watching you while things are going wrong, and you're trying to troubleshoot.
You
like,
got 10
stress.
minutes. Yeah, you got
The
10 minutes.
Stress of going from one band to another band. And,
This sound engineer today, this poor lady, she, again, there was probably at least 5 or 6 times where, you heard the feedback.
Oh,
She
no.
was hitting this vape pen so much. Like her anxiety level.
Oh, that's good.
The sound engineer or the artist?
No, the sound engineer. Like the band was just kind of like,
yeah, smiling.
Yeah, smile and nod. Man, that sound engineer, her lungs were, she's coughing to make tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's the
man.
thing. You get the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
There's so many events going on at South by Southwest. It's insane that they can curate it as well as they do.
It's so true. I mean,
Schedule it.
Yeah.
it is crazy. We've been there. I feel like in order to be able to smile through it, you have to have bad sound so many times that you just have to be able to know what you're playing, even if you can't hear a single note that you're playing. We've played so many gigs where we're like, did someone have a recording of that? Because we don't know what a single person was playing. It's like a rite of passage,
Yeah.
but it
So-
sucks.
So let's talk about a little bit about songwriting. And so are you guys more of a music first then lyrics, or more lyrics first then music? Production wise, have you used the same producer for, give me a little bit of synopsis and give the audience a little.
For sure. I think at the core, Danny and I tend to try to write the songs together. And when it comes to then doing the music aspect, Alex and I kind of do a lot of the composition together.
Okay.
So it's like the melodies and lyrics do tend to come from this lovely lady, Danny, right here. And I would love to claim some of the poetry, but I can't really. I might just have a concept and I'll be like, all right, make it sound pretty.
Hey, you've got all the beautiful guitar parts.
Thank you.
And you've got all the beautiful cello and other parts too. So
He's like the
Everyone's
icing
got
on the
their
cake.
part.
And the cello too.
Yeah.
That's
So-
not the main bag. That's what keeps me hired.
He's the most trained one of the three of us. He's the classically trained one. So
Difficult instrument.
But it also
Yeah.
means you can fit around the other parts. So like bringing, like I like working with structure and the evolution of the song. And then when we've kind of got what we're looking for, he can dance between a third part harmony to then also the bass parts. So we often separate things frequency wise, where he'll be kind of at the bottom frequency, I'm sort of in the middle with the guitar and male voice, and then Danny's sort of at the higher end of the spectrum. So spectrum's probably not the right word to use for you there.
that's a good spectrum.
Frequency rating.
Yeah.
Frequency range.
Yeah.
There we go. She's on the spectrum somewhere
Yeah.
as well.
Only sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Nowadays, so
that's what I was going to say. When I
Not
said it, I was like,
that
that doesn't sound so good.
It's not right.
It's not really PC anymore. Is
She's
it?
in therapy. It's
Aren't we all?
That's true.
But yeah, we have worked with the same producer from our first EP, How the Mountain, through our first album, Luxumbra, to our next album that we're going to be releasing next year as well. So Matt Lay is the guy who's produced and he's behind the desk for us. He actually played bass on the last album.
Okay.
And he got a couple Grammys working with Willie Nelson as well. So
And how'd you
He's
guys
very
connect with
talented.
him?
through
Very random.
Yeah.
Through a Facebook page, the same one that we got connected to Alex through. So essentially, I saw this producer post onto this Facebook page in Nashville that's to connect Nashville creatives. And he was teaching production and mixing at a school of sound engineering in Nashville.
Yeah.
So he said, hey, I need a band that I'll record a free song for you. And I'll just be able to use you to teach the students how to mic things up and how to record. He said, submit your music. I'm going to pick one band out of all the submissions. So there were probably 50 to 100 comments on it. So I submitted us, and he happens to pick us. He likes the instrumentation as an acoustic band, so he could teach them more miking. Recorded this song for us in the school, and we loved it. We were like, wow, this is the best
And what was
recording.
that song? What was the first
Wine.
no, there's Whispers in the Trees.
Oh, no, you're right. It was Whispers in the Trees.
Off the first EP, yeah.
Right,
okay.
yeah.
And so then we ended up like basically recording that whole EP at a combination of doing the rhythm section in the studio and then using our own wash closet to try to like do all the vocals and cello
Oh man.
and then we gave them all of the parts. And
We almost
Yeah.
burned down their apartment because we were using. Yeah, it was supposed to be a little closet for washer and dryer, and we turned it into an ISO cab for amps. And so we had,
Oh, yeah.
we had combo amps in there
Pop-up
for
music,
like
right?
6 hours just wrapped in blankets. And by the time we were done
So
with overdubs and we opened, we were like, oh, these are about to combust.
Oh, my
I forgot about that.
that was on what?
4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July.
So we're trying to fight fireworks in the neighborhood coming.
In the background, just bleeding into our vocal takes is
And
fireworks.
the fact that he managed to make that audio salvageable enough to put it onto an EP, I was like, you're the right man to do an album with, you know?
You're
Yeah.
a magician.
Yeah, magician.
He's a very patient man.
He was very
It's true. It's true. But it's cool working with him because he's heard us from the beginning before we knew what kind of music we wanted to play. We were just kind of throwing everything at the wall, trying everything out. And then Luxumbra was a bit of the same, which was our full album we did with him. So we kept kind of,
20s when you were
yeah, good memory. So we just kept throwing things at the wall. He was throwing in a lot of opinions too. So he was kind of helping push us into a classic rock direction.
Okay.
And then with this current album, we're producing it with him actually, which is really exciting to like produce it alongside of him because now we know what we want and he understands how our minds work. So he knows when to push us and when to stand back and let us do what we want to do.
Yeah, we
It's
really,
a really good relationship.
loved like the classic rock elements of the first album, but in reflection, as kind of a more Americana folk band on the road, it's hard to replicate full-on drum fills without a drummer. So there's only so much you can do on an acoustic guitar or
And
a
there's
kit.
so much technology you can do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had to be like, do we want to use tracks or do we want to do it all live? And we still really want to be an organic band, organic instrumentation. And so then we started getting into like thinking, maybe if we went less classic rock and more post-rock, because there's a lot more space in post-rock rhythm sections, where like the drums still sound huge and full, but that space and that soundscape is that often used in a lot of my favorite music, like Lord Huron or Fleet Foxes. So it's sort of trying to take, I guess, steal like an artist, right? Find your favorite stuff and apply it to what we do. So, I mean, Something in the Stars is a bit of a taste of the new direction we want to go. Yeah.
So going forward, though, playing those songs off the EP live, how do you, or do you just kind of steer away from them going forward? Like, because you, as you said, that's a challenge.
There are some songs we don't play. There are some songs that we just don't feel are served well enough without percussion. And so we do. Chris Carney, the drummer who played with us on the first EP, and Luxumbra is phenomenal. And he's like our Yoda. He's our sort of our Nashville mentor and spiritual leader. And
You're joking.
yeah,
Yes.
but he's just a mad genius behind the kit. So if we're home playing a show, we try to bring him on, and that way we can resurrect some of those. But most of the time, we want to serve our songs as best we can. The new music helps us do that. We're tailoring music to our live show and our studio capabilities.
Well, we finished that first album, and then we listened back to it. And we're like, "Is this us?"
Yeah.
Like, it was so big. The sound was massive because we went into it as a 3-piece trio that's doing folk stuff, and then all of a sudden you've got this electric element that's coming in it. And then we're like, "How do we do that live?" And so then Alex built a pedal board, and he put a sub-octave bass on the cello channel, and I was like, "I'd never heard that before, but now that you've got a pedal board, I want a pedal board." You know, so then we started kind of evolving our sound through using more different pedals.
You added the suitcase kick to help add more of a percussive element.
Yeah.
I picked up the mandolin and shakers so we could just evolve and started playing guitar on more songs. So each one of us is adding something in the frequency range to help fill it out and make it feel more full, even as a trio rather than as a band.
B3 that sounds like 5.
Yeah, exactly. So on 10 Black Crows, is that a kick drum that I'm hearing then, or what is that? What is the?
Oh, in the acoustic version? Yeah, that's actually a suitcase kick drum. Yeah.
Okay.
Tried to use for that one because we basically recorded that in our home studio for the acoustic album, and we wanted to sort of just capture what it is that we do live, and just make it basically a better version. A more studio gloss version of what we would sound like as a 3-piece live. So yeah, I did actually use the kick suitcase, the suitcase for that, which has a little floor tom cut out to fit inside a Samsonite suitcase and a little sound hole at the back. So it was kind of fun seeing how it converts. But yeah, there's not really much percussion on there other than that and her tambourine.
Yeah.
The sound guy at Saxon, Richard, bless him, when he was sound checking that suitcase, he was like, "Man, that thing sounds fucking good." We're trying to rush sound check, and he's like, "It sounds so good."
Just play a little more.
Yeah.
It's like, who would have thought a kick could sound like a suitcase could sound good, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's way more convenient for size-wise as well.
Yeah. And the look of it's fun. People are like, "Oh my gosh, it's a suitcase." Like, it's just a kick drum
So do you
inside
have
of one.
you have your logo on it then, or you
No,
No, we
because I
should.
play it backwards, so there's no like real.
Oh,
Yeah. But today we actually forgot it, so we brought the little kick pedal, but not the suitcase. So we ended up using a guitar case, which actually worked just as well. The guys Jason running the sound, put a microphone inside of it, just cut all the highs, the mids, and all of a sudden it sounded mic'd up like it would be a full kick drum.
Yeah.
So pretty easy.
We had so many people complimenting the use of the guitar case, and they were like, "That's so unique. That's so cool." And we were like, "That's not what we do, actually."
So maybe I should do that more often. You know?
We were like, "Well, that was an accident," but we're
Chefs
glad we
don't
like.
always tell you.
Yeah, exactly right. We made do today.
We're like, "Yes, we just really like the sound of the guitar case. We're just really creative."
So like working on the new album then, like what was your vision going in, and like now that it's done, you know, what with the finished product, like what's your take on it?
The first album is finished. The second album,
We're halfway.
We're actually
Still chipping
halfway.
away at it.
So we recorded half of it last year going into summer.
Oh, okay.
And then no, you're fine. And then we continued to play out more songs.
Yeah.
So we still have some songwriting to do, to be honest.
Okay.
But
We're
yeah,
doing it in an atypical fashion where the album is a concept album. So it's going to be called Of Sea and Sky. So the first half that we're releasing singles from now is Sky.
Yeah.
So we've got Something in the Stars. The next one coming out in May is called Underneath the Blood Moon. Songs that kind of follow that vibe. And then we'll release the full first half just digitally, and then start trickling out singles from the second half until the full album is released with the physical forms, with vinyl, with CDs, all that. So it's a very atypical way of releasing, but it gives us time to finish writing the album, to start releasing the first half, and to tour enough to make money to be able to afford the second half. In today's day and age, it's just so expensive.
Oh, we were really close to just doing 2 EPs, just for the
Mhm.
logical financial investment on that.
That's a good segue. So talk about, because we've seen that just from the bands that we've talked to in the past year, you're really seeing it's more single driven. It's not
Mhm.
album driven anymore.
Yeah.
Even like bands that are releasing albums, when we've done album reviews, we have definitively noticed that the bands are like stacking the front side, side A
Well,
of
that's-
the album
yeah.
with like the good,
It's
the
interesting.
bangers.
Yeah, the
and then,
bangers.
like,
Yeah.
That's an interesting observation because I feel like they've always done that. I feel like I'm looking back even as early as like the 90s, where all of the singles for a band's CD was always the first half of the album, and the sleeper singles might have been like track 7 or 8.
The B-side by definition.
Yeah.
Side A was their good stuff.
Yeah. So
Mm.
nowadays, what I find interesting is the juxtaposition between single culture, leaking out singles, like basically leak your whole album as singles
Mhm.
and then release it. But people are buying more vinyl than ever, which is a whole album experience. So a weird contradiction between like physical sales and digital.
Right.
It's tailoring
ingestion.
tailoring to the streaming market, I think, is essentially
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's true. It is pretty crazy when you look at the analytics. Like of Luxembourg, for example, we released 6 singles from Luxembourg out of a 13-track album.
Okay.
Same as we're going to do the exact same for this next album because it worked so well. And it's amazing how many more plays you get on the songs you release as singles versus the ones you don't. Not because they're better or worse, just because everything is designed for singles nowadays. So songs that our fans love live, we play in every show, like Into the Eye, which is an instrumental between these two. That's incredible. And it's always people's favorites. And we didn't release it as a single. And it's got like 1,000 plays on Spotify in comparison to the other ones that have 100,000 or things like that. So it's pretty crazy how people can love a full album, but they want a physical version. So if you're trying to get any streaming analytics, you kind of have to release singles.
I think we're also lucky that because we play like Americana and folk, we do see a lot of physical sales. The demographic we typically play to
I think that
does
genre
buy,
does help.
Yeah,
it buys a
it
lot of
does.
CDs.
If you're top 40 or iHeartRadio material, you're not
Selling as
almost-
many.
Yeah, it's not as much. It's the single
Yeah.
culture in that world, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But the shelf life has been improved as well. Like, I feel like a single can, 10 years later, still find its place, which is kind of incredible. That was the benefit moving away from, I guess, the radio model a little bit. But yeah,
They
it's,
call it one hit wonder. They don't call it one album wonder.
oh yeah, right.
That's
you're right.
true.
Yeah. And I think that, like, for us though, like, if you're gonna approach the idea of trying to do an album, then you're doing the album because you want to be recognized within the industry, because you want to have that same respect. Like, there's not actually much benefit financially to doing an entire album. It would make more sense for the current algorithm sense to be doing single releases or EP releases. But I think for us, it's like we grew up in an album generation, and we all have our favorite albums, and we want to one day have someone be like, I love your album. Like,
I love
whole
every
thing,
song top to
start
bottom.
to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a piece of art. Like,
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah, that's
story.
what it feels
it's a
like.
full story.
Mhm.
You know, you're just skipping chapters. You're skipping pages. You're not getting the full picture.
Yeah.
And I think too, bands are getting creative now because of this push now for singles and like EPs instead of albums. Like, for example, a band, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but Manchester Orchestra.
Oh,
Yes, we
yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
So
good.
that new EP that they put out,
Yeah.
if you've watched the YouTube video that's associated with it,
No.
it's amazing. It's 26 minutes long. It's basically the soundtrack for the album.
Mhm.
And like, so it's a visual and, audio like
Yeah.
presentation of music. And it's
Fleet Foxes did the same as well.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did,
of
which
course.
is really cool.
Mr. Pecknold and the boys.
Yeah, that's right. Oh man.
So you spoke to Lord Huron. That's a
Yeah.
big influence.
Well,
We got to see those guys last summer.
They're so
great
good.
show. Really, really.
it's like bringing back the riffs, and it's like stylized somehow, spaghetti western,
Mhm.
somehow folk. It's
The
kind of all
reverb.
over. It's
We love the use of like bringing back reverb. Because it's not,
capturing a space.
a lot of people
Yeah.
keep telling us to stop using reverb because they're like, that's not what's popular. And we're like, but it sounds so good.
Yeah.
I love the Lord here. And I was like, no, we're going to drench it in reverb.
Yeah.
We're gonna stylize
Douse it.
the whole record.
But also you can hear
It's
just
like the war on
what-
drugs kind of like
Yeah.
sound as well. Like,
To me, it was also the difference of like independent artist to label budget. When you break down the amount of instrumentation that's in the latest album, that's high budget. Like you couldn't afford to bring that many musicians on at an independent level. But it's really cool to hear the thoughts that have been there probably for quite a while. These may not be new songs for Lord Heron, but to hear how the execution was on that whole album, it's such a journey. And I think that's like the goal of a lot of musicians now is like is wanting to take a listener on a journey with them. And so that's where I love the soundscape thing. Where like, if it pops up on your Spotify or whatever you listen to, Apple Tidal, all that, then it's like it sticks out because it doesn't feel the same or sound the same as saying what everyone else is doing, which is hard to do. Hard to sound original.
So let's talk about social media and that game that we have to play as bands, as podcasts, as anybody in this business. Do we love it? Do we hate it? Do we, speak on that?
We'll let Danny speak on that.
I think I'm the only one that likes it. And I think I realized since nursing is my day job, I never really thought about doing any marketing or social media or booking or anything, but I ended up really liking the music business, really liking the social media and the marketing and thinking about the psychology behind what people like, what posts get the most traction, how is it how can you create something that will reach more people outside of just your core group, looking at other people and getting examples from what they do. So I really like that, which is why I get to do it.
It's a walking a fine line between talking to your fans and selling your music to your fans. Like that's an interesting take, and I was like, yeah, you're kind of right because you don't want to feel fake. You don't want to sound like ingenuine. But at the same time, you are a product.
Yes.
You are.
We talk about the highlight reel of social media, where unfortunately, it's not really a place to complain, which I think a lot of people still do. But I think that it's really important to focus on all of the great things that happen on the road. So then, by proxy, people see the highlights of your experience rather than experiencing what it's like to actually live in a van with a couple of people and a dog. There's some lowlights too.
Nobody wants to see someone underwear.
No. So if someone's like, "Hey, you guys are doing so great," then you're like, "The social media is working."
Yeah, you are seeing exactly what we want you to see. You're hearing exactly what we want you to hear. And some people don't like to hear that, which I find ironic because they consume it wholeheartedly. But it's all a game. Like TikTok, for example, is my least favorite social media platform, mainly because
we refused.
Yeah.
Well, we resisted. We kicked and screamed. But my least favorite trend, especially on TikTok, is the listening to my new song for the first time with my friend in the car, and it's the fourth time that they're doing that, and it's the girl's roommate, and she's in every video, and the song's been out for 2 years, and it's so obviously disingenuous, and it feels bad, and they should feel bad.
It's shameful.
Yeah, it really is.
Strong words.
But these people don't know. People are naive, and they go, "Oh my gosh, what a nice way to conveniently set up your camera perfectly in a car while you're driving." And
don't get me started.
It's reality TV. Is it scripted or is it real? But that's what social media is.
Yep.
So I think it is extremely powerful, and it's just a necessary evil.
Yep.
I think we're very lucky as independent artists to be able to have something like the internet.
We need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
We can be jaded when we speak about it, when in reality, it is really a lifeline.
Gives you an opportunity to be heard amongst it, and it actually takes away some of the power from major labels. So,
it's true. Well, and I think I kind of disagree a little bit about social media needing to be a highlight reel, because I think that's how it used to be 5 to 10 years ago. And now I think everyone's got a different purpose for their social media account. And ours, we've realized as we traveled more and fell in love with traveling, we were like, it's more of like a blog for us, like a way to connect with people and a way to just be like, hey, this is where we are now. This is where we are now.
Yeah.
It's a documentation of where we're at. And I think people like to be let in when something really sucks. When you're like, hey, we just got this stolen. we
Yeah.
are super poor. But then you don't have to talk about that all the time. But I think when you
But you can
show
sprinkle
little
that
moments
stuff
like that,
in.
it's
Yeah.
real. You can let people into those tough moments. And I think it's actually important to do that.
And GoFundMe as well, like those kind
Mm-hmm.
of kicks. Like we ran a Kickstarter for our first album.
Okay,
And
so yeah, talk about that. That's,
we wouldn't
Yeah.
we wouldn't have been able to afford to market that album.
It changed our lives,
We
like,
wouldn't have been able to afford
completely.
to do any music videos. Like,
Mhm.
and one of those music videos is currently a semi-finalist in the international songwriting competition. So,
Yeah.
this is all because of our fans. Like, we cannot thank the supporters enough because that direct line keeps us going.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's some massive flaws, but there's
So
some
when
huge
will we
flaws.
find out if we win?
Well, I don't
I
know,
think
actually.
end of March, so
End
it's
of
probably
March,
coming
yeah.
up soon. Well, I think
Wow.
we're in the semifinals, and then they'll announce the finals,
Yeah.
and then they'll announce the winners. So
Yeah.
we'll see. There's a second song in it too, which is the instrumental that they do.
Okay.
So that's also in the semifinals for the instrumental category.
exciting.
That would be a huge honor.
That would be really
Yeah.
awesome. So we'll see. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that applied, so we really did not expect to even get into semifinals.
Yeah.
Those little things
Mhm.
keep you go, okay, well, maybe we really do need to
And it-
continue pushing this.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's global, yeah.
Yeah,
that-
it's huge.
It's global.
Yeah,
International.
140,
International.
140
Yeah.
countries
Yeah.
have applicants.
Mhm.
It's
So,
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to celebrate the little victories. I think that's what it's
You
all
do.
about. Not every night is going to be your Woodstock.
But you should play like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We were saying every time we get in a really bad headspace, which
Yeah.
I think that we expected that would be during the pandemic, where we're like, where are we going? This sucks. Should we quit? But I think it's happened more post-pandemic because the opportunities just keep getting like smaller and smaller for independent artists just because it's so expensive. So a lot of acts we know are really disheartened by, is that the right word? I don't know.
Disheartened.
Disheartened by the current state of the music world. So every time we hit a really bad low in the past 6 months and went, oh, do we need to just quit? Then we got really good news the next day, like the ISC competition.
Yeah.
So we're
It's a
like,
roller coaster, yeah.
maybe we
It
need
is.
to have more bad
Buckle up,
news.
Yeah.
Because then we have good news the next day.
So tell the fans and tell our audience, like, what should we expect? I know you said about the album being released next year, correct?
Mhm.
What for the rest of the year, like
Many
touring
singles.
wise? What should we expect?
Well, there'll be a lot of singles coming out. We are doing the rollout
Yeah.
style that everyone's doing at the moment, so there'll probably be 6 singles throughout the year.
Mhm.
We are planning another tour for New Zealand to promote that album as well. We're going to do our first European tour as just a duo to sort of dip the toes in the water and see how it goes over in Europe.
Okay. And when will that happen?
That'll be in August.
In August.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
So between now and then, we do have to finish writing that album and recording it. So April will be a busy time for that.
We're going to be in the studio March 31st.
Yeah,
So we have about 10 days to finish writing that album.
Okay.
good times. Yeah.
But
It's fine.
in amongst that, there's more stuff. I don't know what we can and can't talk about yet. What places will be.
Meadowgrass in May in Colorado
Mhm.
will probably be the first bigger festival that we'll be playing at.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Meadowgrass?
Yes,
Yes.
and we can also talk about Marlin Music as well. We'll
Okay.
be back at that again this year in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So there's a few things on the cards, but not all of it can be divulged just yet. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
But no, it'll be another great year. Just sort of take it as it comes and keep building, So Alex does a lot of session work around Nashville too, and I've got into producing for other artists as well. So we're trying to diversify a bit more,
Mhm.
And Danny's also still working as a nurse as well,
Get to go back to my day job in 4 days.
Yeah.
It's been a nice month off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to hang with the family in New Zealand as well as the
Mhm.
South by Southwest. So it's been kind of a crazy month for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a pleasure. I hope it was as much fun as it was for me as it was for you guys.
Thank you
It
so
was
much
great.
for having us.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
So, guys, this has been the Music Lab Podcast, and I'm Dogg. Thank you to our sponsors, Roar Outfitters and Rooster Stone. Peace and one love.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here at Roar Outfitters, we are an independent, family-owned clothing company for all ages. Check out our inventory of shirts and hoodies at www.roaroutfitters.com and follow our social media pages. Don't just wear, roar.
come on over to roosterstone.com, where you can book the band for any event you can imagine. Acoustic, full band, whatever your event may require. You can also email us to take online music lessons at an affordable monthly price. Don't forget to download our original music and like, follow, and subscribe to Rooster Stone across all social media platforms. Keep rocking out at roosterstone.com.